Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the NCSL Dynasty, located exclusively on College Football Revamp. We are here in our inaugural season, and we are starting to get to some very key matchups in the NCSL. We got conference championship races that are starting to heat up, but not only that, we also got national championship races heating up. Who are going to be the 8 teams that will be featured in the first ever college football playoff in the NCSL? So it is going to be a fun episode here in this one. There's going to be a lot of action that we are going to be looking after. 16 nationally televised games, including a couple of top 25 matchups that we're going to be watching here on the channel throughout this episode. So I hope it's a good one, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do, I need you guys to do me a couple of favors. I need you guys to go ahead, smack that like button for me. Then not only do that, but also make sure you're hitting that subscribe button if you do happen to be brand new, so that we can grow this college football community on the path to the national championship here in the NCSL. But that being said, let's go ahead and hop right into the game action. I'll see you guys out on the football fields throughout the country. So let's go ahead and get week number 9 NCSL action officially underway. And we open up with a heck of a matchup. We got number 5 Washington taking on number 8 Cal, a game that is not only going to have conference championship implications possibly, but we're also talking about college football playoff implications as well. And the game decided to have this game on a Thursday afternoon. That would not happen. It would be like a Saturday night game. Y'all already know this, but we'll see what ends up happening on the field between these two teams. As Joe McDaniel, he had 5 touchdown passes in the last game against Nevada. Well, he's going to show that he can do some things with his legs as well. Starts the game off with a 48-yard run and sets up Washington for a goal line situation, dumps it off to the tight end, and Keenan Dixon will score the touchdown. But more importantly, Joe McDaniel is going to start this episode off with extending the school passing record for most touchdowns in a career. He has 89 passing touchdowns to his name and has a very good chance of being the first Washington quarterback to hit 100 passing touchdowns in a career before this season is over, especially if they got a couple of postseason games that are going to be awaiting for them, right? So very still a close game between these two squads, as Washington's trying to jump out a bag, trying to get a little razzle dazzle with a fake punt. It doesn't work. Actually almost backfires horribly, because if that was picked off, that might have been going the other way. But Cal's still going to take advantage. They will score yet again here in this first quarter of action, allowing Cal to take a 14-7 lead here at home. And McDaniel, he might be a tad bit off here today with the throwing arm. Throws a bad pass. Does make a good effort to make sure that it doesn't get taken all the way back to the crib. But the California Bears, they are rolling right now. Plenty of time in the pocket, looking for a deep pass down the field, and that's intercepted as well. At least I applaud both these quarterbacks for trying to be aggressive, but can't make it work right now. But there's a deep pass that'll work for them. Down the sideline, breaks another tackle. One man left to beat. He takes him down with him, and Dusty Rice, he's going to score on a 62-yard scamper, and the California Bears, they will end up extending their lead with Joe McDaniel trying to pick up the pieces. Last minute, trying to get Washington to a one-possession game. And how about this throw to Brandon Turner? A 30-yard reception that makes it touchdown pass number 97, I do believe. Or no, that might have been number 90. This might be 91. That certainly is the case. So 2 scores right before the half. We got ourselves a ball game either way. And this game certainly living up to the billing. Both teams want to win. And this is one that you would hate to lose right now, as I got another pass over the middle to start the second half of action. Looking for that deep ball, but it was double covered. I'm really not sure what this Cal quarterback was trying to see, but he didn't see it. But still tie game, 21 apiece, as Joe McDaniel, he'll throw yet another strike down the sideline, again connecting with Marcus Gallinger. That's his second receiving touchdown of the day. And now Washington finds itself in the lead, 28-21, going into the fourth quarter of action. Cal looking for an answer, trying to go ahead and scramble down the sidelines. Got one defender left to beat, and he beats him. Matt Black will be running it into the end zone. And again, it's a tie ball game out here in Berkeley, California. Winner takes all. 28-all as Joe McDaniel gets hurt. But Matt Harmon, the backup quarterback, he runs a read option, and it's a perfect call. His jersey is completely untouched, and that last touchdown ended up being the difference. What a way to start this episode off, as Washington is going to take a 35-28 win over the California Bears, and it's a big-time win. So we'll see if the rest of the episode can live up to what we just saw, as we have a little bit of an old SEC rivalry between Kentucky and Mississippi State. The Bulldogs seeking to get to 5-2, but the Kentucky Wildcats are looking to try and salvage their season. It has not been a great season for the Kentucky Wildcats by any sense of the imagination. They do jump to a 10-0 lead against the Bulldogs early, but Mark Barbado, he's going to throw a nice pass over the middle. He actually is a transfer from the FCS level, actually. Fun fact of the day. But that being said, Mark Barbado, he's not going to be the one that is going to get the touchdown. It'll be his running back, Micah Franklin, that does the job. So Mississippi State pulls to within 3, but next drive, Barbado actually slips. Fonnie had his check down open, but that was not the case at all, and a tough performance for Mark Barbado, which in spite of that, they are still got a chance to tie this football game up, which they will end up doing here in this Thursday night matchup. 10-all here as we get to the last couple of minutes of this first half, as they'll throw over to the left-hand side. Finds Justin Terry for a 9-yard gain. As now we got another 1st and 10 across midfield. Kentucky looking to take the lead before we go into that halftime locker room. 3rd and long, though. Gonna be, no, not a halfback draw. It's a play action over the middle. He's got his man. Touchdown, Wildcats. And it's Justin Terry who's gonna strike in the end zone. Big time score that they really needed there. And that was the difference. Kentucky wins 24-17. That will help them trying to salvage their season. But now we get into the Saturday games, and we start with, more notably, Minnesota and Missouri going at it, but we also will have the turnpike rivalry game between Tulsa and Oklahoma State. First, we'll check in on the ladder as Missouri comes into this game ranked number 18 in the entire country there. But Minnesota is a good football team, not ranked, but they are already bowl eligible there at 6-2. They're certainly not to be messed with either. Missouri will be challenged here in this ball game. We'll see if they are indeed ready for it. But before we check out the rest of the game, we do get our first studio update of this episode as BYU and New Mexico, they are playing out in the West Coast right now. We got a tied ball game most of the way through the first quarter, all knotted up at 7 between these two squads. So now we check back in on our game, and actually Missouri misses the extra point. You don't see that very often. So Tigers are down by 1, but they will take the lead for the first time today as James Bryant threw a strike there in the back of the end zone. They don't go for the 2-point conversion, but speaking of kickers that are actually making their extra points, back to the BYU New Mexico game. New Mexico takes the lead for the first time today. New Mexico looking to get above 500 for the first time today. So now we check in back on our game. 1:13 left to play in the first half of action. Minnesota dropping back to pass, looking for a strike down the left-hand side. He's got a receiver. Is it going to be a touchdown, though? It is. Craig Smith finds the end zone on a 64-yard scamper. And Minnesota actually goes into the halftime locker room with a lead. 14-13 is your score. And they also get the ball to start the second half, too. What an incredible revelation as Minnesota can double dip to start the second half, and they will. Anthony Vickers finds the end zone for the Golden Gophers, and it's their biggest lead today, 21-13. But speaking of close games, this one is coming right down to the wire right now. BYU, New Mexico, two teams that are certainly going at it right now. New Mexico has a field goal lead against the Cougars. But can Missouri answer back, though, as late in the third quarter, they're going to set up a halfback screen. Okay, a touchdown for Missouri as Brandon Green will put it to just a 2-point game. They will likely go for the 2-point conversion, and it looks like that is indeed the case. Offense staying out onto the field, looking over the middle of the field, and it's going to be incomplete. They fail on the 2-point conversion, and just two games simultaneously going on, going back and forth. BYU and New Mexico could literally go in either direction, but a painful lesson here for Missouri. That extra point that they missed in the first quarter ended up being the ultimate difference as Minnesota pulls the upset. So now we check in on the Turnpike Classic between Tulsa and Oklahoma State, but the Cowboys are having a little bit of a down year. They're just 1-5 coming into this game, whereas Tulsa having an okay season, 3-3, right where you expect Tulsa to be honest with you. But Cowboys, they are letting it be known that they are better than what that 1-5 record shows, as when we get into these rivalry games between these two teams, you never know what can happen, and it looks like Oklahoma State, they are taking that to heart personally, as that field goal attempt will actually be good. Gives the Cowboys a 10-point lead, so they're playing some good ball right now. However, in the second half, Tulsa looks to get the comeback going as they're going to run the ball right up the gut. And how about this run here by 46? Oh my! Smith was coming out and taking names and taking bodies as well. Actually, eventually gives Tulsa the lead, but Oklahoma State will eventually come back. They'll win the game, and they will actually win the Turnpike Classic 23-21, and Tulsa is stunned. Meanwhile, we have a triple box update as multiple top 25 teams going to work. Ohio State and Miami most notably, but first we'll check in on the falling star. That is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They have fallen out of the top 25 officially after their difficult loss to USC. So we'll see if they can bounce back against Northern Illinois. But a quick update first on Mid-Tennessee State and Vanderbilt. That's also going at the same time. The Blue Raiders with a 13-point lead. So Northern Illinois definitely going to be tested as they have one of their custom coaches here, actually. Thomas Hammock Jr. is in here. He's the offensive coordinator for Northern Illinois, and his offense has been pretty good, but this will be the best defense that he will come up against all day. And it looks like his defense might be not doing him too many favors, as Ed Turner is going to run this ball into the end zone here so quickly. Notre Dame will take a 10-0 lead. But before we check on the rest of his game, we do get another studio update on Mid-Tennessee State and Vanderbilt, and it's a close one over here as the Blue Raiders seek to get to 5-2 and get closer to that opportunity to go to a bowl game. So here we are now in the second quarter. Notre Dame really starting to open things up. 17-0 is your score, and it looks like Northern Illinois, they did not come prepared for the opportunity to take on the Fighting Irish. And it seemed like as though Northern Illinois is going to be ready to just be ran off the field, but Northern Illinois gets a turnover, and it's a turnover that they badly needed something to go their way. They will eventually move downfield, get the touchdown, and a 2-point conversion. But I don't know where this offense has been for Notre Dame, but today it looks like it's borderline unstoppable. Looks like no matter what Northern Illinois tries to do, it just isn't necessarily working, as Landon Hogan, he'll find the end zone for the Fighting Irish. So that makes it 31-8, but we'll go and check on a game that actually is a little bit closer than what we're currently watching right now. And Mid-Tennessee State has a 7-point lead still over the Vanderbilt Commodores. So now the offense led by Thomas Hammock Jr. is finally out onto the field and gonna get a good run in. Gets a good run in on the right-hand side. That allows the Huskies to pick up a first down there. We'll see if they can finish off the drive, though. It's essentially second and goal a couple plays later. It's going to be a triple option. Quarterback, he's going to pitch it out the last moment, and Robbie Oliver will score for the Huskies. They'll even go for the 2-point conversion, trying to find somebody to get open, but I feel like that quarterback would have been better off just trying to scramble upfield. Actually, I'm very surprised that he did not want to go forth and do that. But it looks like Notre Dame really looking like the team that we saw back in week number 1 when they really showed themselves against Tennessee. And speaking of those Tennessee-related teams, another studio update from Mid-Tennessee State and Vanderbilt literally can go in either direction. It's been an exciting game to watch all day long. However, Notre Dame just absolutely pummels Northern Illinois at home as the Fighting Irish win 52-14. So here we go. We check in now on Toledo, who goes on the road. They make the trip down I-75 and I-70 in order to get to Ohio State. This Buckeyes team is reeling off of their first loss of the season, though, as Ohio State, their offense has really struggled. We haven't really seen them score very much, even before the Michigan State loss. They have also looked rough against Ball State offensively. So hopefully this is a little bit of a get-right team, because on paper, this Ohio State team is a lot more talented than Toledo's defense is. So we'll see if they get right or not, but in the second quarter, we're finally seeing an Ohio State touchdown. Brandon Burks will get into the end zone. It's a touchdown for the Buckeyes, their first points of the entire game. We'll see if Robert Tucker can add on to that before the end of the first half. He will throw it up. Had a few guys stare down the field, but just did not put enough air under that ball. It was intercepted. So that takes us into halftime. Ohio State and Toledo still could go in either direction. Neither team really pulling away. And it's been a concerning one for the Ohio State Buckeyes, as we'll see them at least get a field goal attempt in. The field goal will at least be good. Ohio State wins. They win the game, but definitely some concerns now on the offensive side of football, for sure. One team not really having many concerns at all is the Miami Hurricanes. Hurricanes coming in number 3 in the country. They'll be taking on an in-state school in the University of Central Florida over in the Bounce House. But with this team 1-5, I don't expect this team, this Bounce House, to be bouncing all that much here today, as Miami, they're just looking to show why they should be ranked number 1 in the country. They have not been ranked number 1 in the country, but they certainly have the fortitude to be a national championship contending team. They have that in them, but when we just think that Miami is going to pull away and run UCF off the field, the Golden Knights, they got a spark. They get a spark from Gavin Pierce, of all people. He's the backup quarterback for the Golden Knights, and he's going to actually lead yet another touchdown drive. UCF actually holds a lead. Oh my goodness. This would be a monumental upset if Miami loses here in the Bounce House. But plenty of balls still left to be played, and the Hurricanes, they're trying to lead yet another drive before we go into the halftime locker room. Ball was inside the 45-yard line as Mr. Carter, he is going to wind up. He's going to fire and find his receiver, Chad Newton, for a touchdown. And Mr. Carter, how have you been? He finds the end zone through the air. All knotted up at 21, but UCF does get set up in field goal range right before halftime. It takes the field goal attempt right through, so UCF, they actually hold a lead at halftime. But Miami really focuses up here in the second half, trying to ride behind Jeff Sanders, who is in that Heisman conversation right now. We'll take a quick break to take a look at this studio update right now. BYU and New Mexico. We've been talking about it quite a bit in this episode so far. Going either way. Either team could come through and win this game that could go to the buzzer like the one that we're seeing now. So here we are in the fourth quarter now. Miami does have a 9-point lead, trying to put UCF away as he finds not Jeff Sanders, but the tight end Antoine Bryant, who gets his third catch of the day, dragging some defenders and almost getting a hard-earned touchdown in the process, as Carter will find Chad Newton again in the end zone. A touchdown for the Hurricanes. And it looks like they are going to try to put these guys away once and for all, going with a 2-point conversion, and they actually succeed in that. And we even get another win. BYU comes back and beats New Mexico 28-24. But we will see Miami win 50-33, so it ends up being quite a shootout, but the Hurricanes do remain undefeated. But now we check in on South Carolina taking on the Tar Heels of North Carolina. This Tar Heels team finally getting ranked in the top 25. It took them some time to do so, but a strong season for the Tar Heels right now. They're 5-1, but South Carolina, one of their rivals, by the way, probably will have something to say about that, as seems like upsets have happened quite a bit, or at least very close to happening. Speaking of upsets that could happen, Southern Miss and Auburn, that's a game that we'll definitely keep an eye on. Meanwhile, North Carolina finds itself down 7-0 as we see Brian Reese. He's going to take on the option himself and finds the end zone towards the end of the first quarter. That's a touchdown for the Tar Heels. But while we were at commercial break, we got another studio update, and Auburn, they just barely survived, winning by a field goal. Southern Miss, they started 3-0, has dropped 4 straight now. Meanwhile, all knotted up at 7 apiece as North Carolina tries to retake the lead. They will hit this field goal through in order to help give North Carolina the lead for now. But South Carolina, with no timeouts, has one more drive before the end of the half. I would imagine that's a decent start to it. Finding Nick Clark up in the middle of the field. And now South Carolina is cooking. Can Davis lead a drive to end the half? Looks over to the left-hand side. It's a broken tackle. Does he get out of bounds? And he looks like he does. Stops the clock at 30 seconds. South Carolina deeply in business now. Davis, he wants the touchdown right now, and he's going to get it. Hot and delivered like a Little Caesar's pizza. That's a touchdown for Sam Wallace to end the half in South Carolina. They got the lead 17-13. Looking to lead a upset against the number 24 team in the nation. Both these teams in the same conference too with the new conference realignment. So this will be a big win for South Carolina as Davis is going to run it into the end zone. That's a touchdown for the Gamecocks. And Big Cock Brock going to work here. 24-13. Carolina looking over to the right-hand side, and it's going to find Ralph Johnson almost for a first down, but not quite. They will pick it up on a later play. A couple plays later, 1st and goal, they go with the option play, and no one accounts for the quarterback. Derek Davis was just all by himself, untouched into the end zone. That's the crazy part in all of this. So 31-13 is your score. North Carolina going to try to get this comeback going, but down by 18 points. Although certainly not Chris Goss's fault. You saw his stats there for a brief moment. 10 catches for 200 yards. He's been balling out today. Well, did they go back to him? No. They go to Jeff Brandon instead. North Carolina does score. They'll go for the 2-point conversion and make this a 10-point game. Trying to use a halfback draw, but South Carolina, they are all over it like macaroni on cheese. And Lonnie Holiday responsible for the stop. So, 12-point game. They got to get into the end zone both times. They'll look over the middle of the field, and it's going to be an 8-yard reception for Aaron Ellis. You know, if they got to punch their way into the end zone, there's no other option if they want to win. Run the ball up the middle. They do get it to Aaron Ellis yet again. And suddenly, this game gets very interesting. North Carolina's got free timeouts left to work with as well. But the Gamecocks, they do pick up the onside kick. And now they just got to pick up that first down, which they ended up doing. So South Carolina can just run out the rest of his clock and be Gucci. But you know what we're talking about in college football. Style points do certainly matter. and Thomas Logan makes that message very clear as they take down their rivals 38-26 on the road and pulling the upset on the number 24 team in the nation. Tar Heels doing all of that work to get into the polls. Now they'll fall right out. But now we got a double box update as we get into the later games. Arkansas State and Illinois, or in LSU. But we got another top 25 matchup that we'll check in a little bit later. But first, Arkansas State taking on LSU. Should be a very good matchup between these two teams. Two teams that are very talented. One already guaranteed to go to a bowl game, another not. But speaking of that bowl game chase, UNLV gets closer. They win by 20 against Nevada. So UNLV, a team that's, not very big of a program necessarily, one win away. But now LSU looks to go back to work. They've had some good drives here already. 2 touchdown drives here to start this first quarter. Looking to go free for Frevo as Jelani Williams moves forward. Only his 5th carry of the day, but been very effective so far. Been a lot of guys have been getting some love either way. As a receiver, Chris Norman is going to take the carry. He'll run into the end zone for the LSU Tigers. And it looks like LSU wants to make a statement here by running Arkansas State off of this football field. We'll see if they can actually accomplish that or not as we jump into the second quarter of action. Can they finish yet another drive? Halfback screen, out on the perimeter, one man left to beat, and Jelani Williams makes it into the end zone. He breaks the plane. So now 28-7 is their score. Arkansas State just trying to remain alive in this game. It's not like Arkansas State's offense has been terrible. It really hasn't so far. They haven't been able to finish drives, and our defense has done absolutely no favors. But this is the one. Omar Jones fought for the touchdown, and he gets it. So Arkansas State down by 2 scores. A stop on this drive would be really helpful. That helps them tremendously. Anthony Williams gets sacked. They have to use their second timeout. So the Tigers now have 1 timeout, and their starting quarterback not in the game. He gets hurt. So the backup does have to come in, and it's 3rd and goal. I imagine they keep it on the ground. How much do they trust this backup quarterback? And he's actually going to toss it. Looks in the back of the end zone. And LSU just scores anyway. Damian Morton finds the end zone once again. Arkansas State will set themselves up for a last-second field goal. But, man, we got an exciting shootout that is on our hands right now. Jumping into the 3rd quarter, though, LSU still with that 35-17 lead. And, we saw a lot of those points being scored in that first half. Second half was a little bit different of a scoring. We didn't see the same level of scoring that we end up seeing in the first half, but LSU still gets some points up on the board as they get very close to a 50-burger, and they will be very close to accomplishing that 50-burger, actually. They're going to get to, looks like, about 48. They'll get to a 48-24 lead against Arkansas State, and that will end up being your final. LSU does reach that 50-burger. They win 55-31 as LSU was rolling today. But we ended up with a top 25 matchup out in the Northeast as Syracuse is taking on Army. Matter of fact, Syracuse is ranked number 11 in the country, and this is their first nationally televised game all season long. Technically, this was supposed to be a regionally televised game, but I overruled because we got to check out the top 25 matchups in the country. So Syracuse is also undefeated too. That's another thing. But if you're looking for offense in this particular game, well, that did not necessarily happen here today. Army likes to play that triple option, and they really like to, really take the air out of the football. And for the most part, they did accomplish that. Just didn't put up a lot of points in this particular game. Matter of fact, this is a very defensive-minded game that we ended up seeing. But 4th quarter, we might actually see a touchdown for the very first time today as their quarterback, Jacob Butler, is going to be able to force his way into the end zone. Gives the Orange a 10-point lead over the Black Knights of Army here in the 4th quarter. And that's big considering how Army typically likes to play. They're run heavy. Their offense is not really built to sustain any kind of comeback necessarily. So if you start off well against Syracuse, as good as Army's bid, you're good to go. You are good to go, and that's exactly what Syracuse did. You know, they played well enough to win, and they're going to get to 8-0. Another step closer to an undefeated season. But we now go to the great state of Texas as we see Texas taking on TCU. Both of these teams, though, have struggled. 2-4 thus far on the year, and it's a critical game considering whoever wins this game will at least have a chance to come out here and salvage their season. But for Texas, man, Texas has been really disappointing thus far in this year. They were a top 25 team. Back in week number 2 when they took on Ohio State. And look where Texas is now. They're losing against TCU by 11. They need to come back from the Longhorns if they want to come back and win this game. Hopefully this run will help set them up a little bit, but they go backwards. Trey Dixon loses 5 yards courtesy of Will Bridges. So much difficult proposition here as Adam Allen, he's going to take a sack as well. It's going to make it 3rd and goal. Longhorns with 3:30 left to play. Allen looking over the middle of the field, finds his receiver, and Chasen Powell does find the end zone, cuts it down, possibly to just a field goal if they can make this 2-point conversion happen, which they don't. The receiver had it in his hands, he just drops it, unfortunately. So 3rd and 2 coming up. Texas is going to drop back. They got one more chance to win this game. But that drop was huge because a field goal would have at least given them a chance to tie it. Now they got to go to the end zone. It's all or nothing. Allen throws to the right-hand side, finds Chasen Powell for a 27-yard gain. It's a 1st down, and Powell's been feeling himself today. 4th and goal. It's going to come down to his final play. Faces pressure and finds Derek Chapman in the back of the end zone. Touchdown, Texas. They will go for the 2-point conversion, though. This means they won't be able to lose on a field goal. They do get the 2-point conversion. And now TCU only has one more chance. TCU dropping back. Looks over to the right-hand side. Tries to float it up. But could not fit it in there. He'll just go down after that. And Steven Jackson, he's beside himself. The coach is beside himself as well, asking, what the heck are you doing, man? What the heck are you even doing? Texas is going to win the game 17-14 as the Longhorns win again. But to wrap up the action, though, we got a bunch of games happening all at the same time, culminating to where College Game Day actually ended up going. They ended up going down to Alabama for the Alabama-Tennessee game. But before we check in on that College Game Day matchup, some other matchups going on around the country, most notably Temple and Penn State. Penn State ranked number 17 in the entire country, taking on a Temple team that has been undervalued. 5-1 going into this game. This would be their biggest test of the entire season, though, as one of your custom coaches is here playing as the defensive coordinator, Jake Jacobs. He's the DC for the Temple Owls. Might be someone that could be looking for a bigger job at the end of this season, given what he's been able to accomplish. But already down 10-0 though. This offense will need to step up. It looks like it could be that type of game as Henry Gardner will run the ball upfield for the Temple Owls and pick up a 1st down. That's a gain of 9 yards. Now setting up a goal line situation to cut this down to a 3-point game, and it is good. Henry Gardner for the touchdown. And the Temple Owls are right back into the ball game. But we take a quick studio update break to check in on Navy and Texas State. Navy is in a close one. And actually, speaking of studio updates, we get a second one as well on top of that. Pittsburgh, who actually beat Penn State in the previous episode, they went on and played Boston College on the road. Nearly got upset, but Pittsburgh gets the 6-1 as well. But going back to our action as we get back from commercial break, as Temple still down by a field goal. Getting to the last couple minutes of this first half, Temple has a chance to possibly tie or even take the lead. Except Morales throws a very bad interception there inside the 40-yard line. This defense going to be in some deep trouble now. Can Jake Jacobs manufacture just a field goal, keep this offense out of the end zone? Dropping back, Henry's got all day to throw. He finds his receiver as Jarvis Bell picks up a 13-yard reception and a fresh set of downs for the Nittany Lions, who still got 2 timeouts left to work with. Henry, he's going to try to go ahead and scramble. Does he slide down? No, he's going to stay on his feet. Brian Henry with an 18-yard run. Now it's a goal line situation. Temple looking to hold him out in the end zone, but it's going to be a touchdown for the Nittany Lions. Corey Grimes will make it a 17-7 lead. But while we are at halftime, we'll take the chance to look at Texas State and Navy. And Navy really getting all they can handle from Texas State. The Bobcats have it all knotted up at 14-all. A game that could literally go in either direction, as the service academies in this episode have not been playing very good here today. So here we are in the second half of action, and Temple, no matter what you do on the defensive end, you gotta find ways to just go out there and you gotta get some points. And that will really help. Brendan Malone will help not only make it a 3-point game, but then next possession, Temple's kicker will come out, makes the field goal. All of a sudden, we got ourselves a tied game that could go either way. And the same could be said about Texas State and Navy. The midshipmen in the fourth quarter, 21-17 lead over the Texas State Bobcats. Can the Bobcats pull the unthinkable and pull off an upset against the midshipmen of the Navy Academy? So now we jump late into the third quarter of action as Penn State will look to try and retake the lead. Long field goal attempt, which does end up being good, but Temple can come back and win this game surely, depending on what happens here in the fourth quarter. Looks like it's Henry going to hand the ball off up the middle of the field, and Corey Grimes picks up a hard-earned 7 yards of running. Grimes not really touching the ball very often in this game, as Henry now drops back to pass, looks over to the middle of the field, and that could be a dagger given the struggles on the offensive side of the ball for the Temple Owls. But before we confirm that final score, we get a final studio update as Navy will end up defeating the Texas State Bobcats 28-23. So Navy will end up narrowly avoiding the upset, and then Penn State will also do the same thing as well. Penn State wins 27-17, a hard-fought game for Temple, but they just don't have the horses. So now we check in on the Friends of Cole rivalry game. 2 of the West Virginia teams that play Division I FBS football. They'll take on each other. A rivalry game that does not happen anymore, given that West Virginia is a Power 5 school, while Marshall, well, have moved up from Conference USA. They are still in the Sun Belt Conference, which I would argue with the recent conference alignments in real life. Watch out for the Sun Belt being that 6th best conference this season. I think it'd be the best group of 5 conference out there at the FBS level. But going back to the Friends of Cole game, it's been a defensive struggle with the rain in the air out in the Appalachian State. All knotted up at 14, but Marshall finds themselves down by a field goal with this possibly being their final possession given what could possibly transpire. And they're going to have to make this comeback without their lead running back, C.J. Charles, on a 4th and 5. Dropping back. Marshall, we're going to win this game. Going to throw it deep downfield. And it's going to be caught. But it will not be caught by a Marshall guy. Oh, no. It will end up being caught by a West Virginia guy instead. That is an interception for the Mountaineers. And West Virginia does win the Friends of Cole rivalry game, 17-14, ending up being your final score in this one. But now we got Oklahoma going on the road to take on Texas Tech in Big 12 conference action. One of the few teams out here in this Dynasty universe that has not really moved conferences ever since all the geological realignments have been going down. But it's all knotted up at 0 apiece. But Billy Ferwerda looking for the opening guns to be fired for the Oklahoma Sooners. As Bill Ferwerda, it will pick up that first down for Oklahoma. as it sets up a 1st and goal now. Going with speed option to the right-hand side. Corbett is going to find his way into the end zone, and that is a touchdown for Oklahoma to get things started here. A 7-0 lead in the meantime. But we'll see him again with another red zone opportunity. This time, dumping it off in the air for Kevin Corbett. So Corbett making an impact both in the passing game as well as in the running game as well. Corbett will again get the ball for the 2nd time on this drive. That's near we're going to go to it for a touchdown. Will be marked down at the 1-yard line. However, Corbett does get a breather, and the fullback's going to get a little bit of love, as that is Bill Jones that finds his way into the end zone. Oklahoma with a 14-0 lead, looking to extend it further to a 17-0 affair, and they do precisely that. Texas Tech will not be shut out forever, though. They will eventually get some points on the board, but Texas Tech overall, well, they have not been playing very good, at least not right now. Actually in a spot where they could be ran off the field here if they're not careful. So Texas Tech, they got to come through, get some good plays on both sides of the football in order to avoid being absolutely crushed. They do get a touchdown on one of the first drives of the second half, and they will couple that up with a 2-point conversion. But Oklahoma still has a significant lead, and if they can't make any stops on defense, it could be a long day. That will set them up for a 3rd and short, I believe. They don't have the down and distance marker, a common glitch with the ESPN score bug, but Kevin Corbett will pick up the 1st down anyway, so don't have to worry about that for the time being. 34-11, still your score. Looking to go ahead and get a 40-burger before the end of the 3rd quarter, and Kevin Corbett scores yet again. They score yet again in this ball game, and they end up winning big, 41-34, and that's even with Texas Tech getting all of those points in the 4th quarter when the game didn't matter. But now we check in on the USC Trojans hosting the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Hawaii needing to win this game in order to remain alive for bowl eligibility. If they don't win the rest of the games of their season, they will not experience any postseason action. But USC, that will be a tall task. One of the most offensively gifted teams in the entire country. And Warren Williams almost running his way into the end zone there. He'll pick 11 yards on that scamper. We'll see if they go to the ground game here as both teams have their goal line sets. But USC offensive line is going to win the day against Hawaii as Tristan Price will get the scoring started for the USC Trojans. However, Hawaii does actually have a pretty solid offense. It's actually their defense that has been downright atrocious for Hawaii thus far this year. And that's why they really haven't been able to do much of anything in this inaugural season of the NCSL. They've been having a real tough time with that as USC continues to pull away. We're going to go ahead and run it into the end zone. And Warren Williams all by himself, no one accompanying him as he gets untouched. And that is how USC wins big, 54-9 being your final score. Hawaii will not have any bowl action this season. So now we got our final game of this episode, at least in terms of gameplay. Tennessee and Alabama. And listen, we're going to find out if Tennessee actually deserves that top 25 ranking or not, because yeah, they ended up with a pretty good win against Georgia back in week number 8, and they were ranked in the top 25, doing so on the road, by the way. But Tennessee ranked number 25 when they're just 3-3, when there's other teams that we saw play earlier not even ranked. That's a decision. I don't know if it's a good decision by the AP poll or the coaches poll, but it's certainly not a good decision. But Curtis West could have really blown this game wide butt naked open, but he ends up pitching the ball backward when there's no one to pitch to. It's a decision. Again, not a great one though. Certainly not a good decision whatsoever. And it's now 16-0, now 19-0 in favor of Alabama, as that is exactly the score that they will take in this third Sunday to October bowl game, or rivalry game, right? So Alabama could extend this lead even further as they'll run it up the gut with Josh Maxwell, who runs the ball for a gain of 12 there, as they'll look to make this a 26-point lead if they can score yet again. As Curtis West, does not pitch the ball. He'll take it in himself. Touchdown, Alabama. And the Crimson Tide extend their lead 26-0. While this game is not completely over yet, I think it's pretty clear that Tennessee maybe is overrated with that number 25 ranking. But Volunteers are not giving up that easily. They're trying to drive down the field and get a red zone touchdown late. They will hand the ball off as Tennessee does score with Drew Brown. After the extra point, makes it a 12-point game, but it will not be enough though, as the Alabama Crimson Tide win 26-14. Tennessee will likely fall out of the top 25 completely. But now let's go ahead and look around the country to check out some other games that happened over the course of week number 9. Now, we did see a game played between Utah and Wyoming, but it was more of a crucifixion for the Cowboys. They end up getting blown out 55-24. This is a really rough time for one of your custom coaches, as in his first year as the offensive coordinator, he is only 2-6 right now. As for the Michigan State Spartans, they move up to number 18 in the country as they blow out the Spartans 48-17, showing that the East Coast just has some better Spartans. Keeping it in the Midwest though, the Michigan Wolverines took on Miami of Ohio, and the Red Hawks were simply outclassed. Michigan is still undefeated as they win 44-13. They're now 7-0 on the season. Going out west to check out the Baylor Bears though, they are now going to be bowl eligible officially, and doing so with a bang, winning 56-28. The Baylor Bears now 6-1 and are considered a top 10 team in the nation. However, for UCLA, they continue their magical season as they're still number 1 in the country, beating San Diego State 31-19. Texas A&M is also having a fantastic season right now. Ever since losing to Nebraska in the opener, they've rattled off a 6-game winning streak, this time beating the Houston Cougars 35-23. That being said though, the Clemson Tigers do re-enter the top 25. They will be ranked number 24 in the country. However, not a very convincing win as they only beat North Carolina State 23-17, as the Wolfpack are on the verge of missing bowl eligibility. Arkansas State, however, proves that they're a top 25 team in the nation. They jumped to number 15 in the country after blowing out Oregon State 38-7. And then the last game that I wanted to talk about is that Nebraska Cornhusker squad 7-1. Their only loss is to Colorado. This time they destroy the Kansas Jayhawks 59-17, as the Cornhuskers are now 7-1 on the season. So now we'll go ahead and take a look around and see what the college football playoff picture is going to be looking right now. And it does seem like your top 6 is going to be the same, but Syracuse really moving up. They are now number 7 in the most recent college football playoff poll. They're putting themselves in a good spot to make their first college football playoff. As for Texas A&M, they do end up moving down one spot. Even though they did beat Houston, they just thought Syracuse was a more impressive football team. Cal is going to move down to number 14. They had a tough loss on the road against Washington, so I did not think that it's necessarily it shouldn't be that much of a drop, but the College Football Playoff Committee did disagree with that assessment. Penn State, they move up 3 spots to number 16. They're coming off a win against Temple at home. The Temple Owls did give them a tough time though. Navy's down 1 spot. Auburn moves down a couple of spots because they needed a last-second victory over Southern Miss, but they did win the game, but it was right at the buzzer though. We see Georgia move up 1. Minnesota moves up to number 21 in the college football playoff poll. They do so after beating Missouri, so that's a great win for Minnesota. Pittsburgh's in the same spot. And then rounding out your group, you got Missouri at 23, Army at number 24. Those teams both lost, and then Notre Dame does sneak back into the college football playoff poll. They're at number 25 after blowing out Northern Illinois on national television. But that'll wrap things up here in today's episode of the NCSL. We completed Week 9 action here, and it's been a fun season. But we're starting to get to the final stretch here of the regular season. Still a lot of football that needs to be played. We got 5 more episodes of regular season action before we get into postseason play, and every week, every game is going to matter more. So the action continues to get more exciting. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure you go ahead and smack that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do have to be brand new to the channel. This is John J. Gaming on the mic signing off, but hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.